Hi there, I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent Training. Welcome to our Friday live question and answer class. You can put your questions in the chat at any time, and I'll answer them for you live. I'm looking forward to talking about your requests, so that will be great. Before we do that, briefly, let's take a look at our topic today. We're going to talk about the differences between the vowel, so the American R sound in the middle of words when it's by itself, and two of the diphthongs, the R and the air. So you'll see this written like that, as in the word her or sure, and you'll see this R written like that or like that. Let's use this one. And then air, we start with a tense A sound and we glide to that R sound. So you'll see different ways of these being written in the dictionary. But what I want to look at is that for some people, hearing and creating the difference between these sounds is a little bit challenging. So you may be trying to say the word her, and it might sound more like har, as in heart. Or you might be saying her or har, and instead it comes out sounding more like hair with the air diphthong. So the difference is when I'm saying the sound, my tongue is back and tight, and it's only one sound. There's no movement of the tongue. It's just her, sure, bird, your, etc. Were. I'm trying to think of some more examples that will work well here. So my tongue is into that R position, it doesn't move. Versus R, my tongue starts in a more central and more open position and then glides into that tight So I always end up on but for R, I should feel some movement of the tongue. And so if you have a tendency to mix these two up, for example, let's do war. No, that's not a word either. I need another example. How about we'll do char, or let's do car and care. So if I'm saying car, car, I want to feel that the tongue is lifting and gliding during that R sound, versus if I'm doing her, my tongue is not moving. I'm just right in that sound. And then for the air diphthong, I'm moving from more of the front tense air. And so I feel my tongue moving back versus again being still. So where the tongue starts, whether or not it's gliding, is going to make a difference in these words. I do have a number of lessons for you on contrasting words. So you could look at, for example, were versus where, and sure versus share, car versus care. Becoming aware too and knowing what vowel you're trying to say by being able to look up the word in the dictionary, because you can see from the spelling here, we don't have super consistent ways of spelling it. If I see ERE in were and in where, it's hard for me to visually see that those two should be different. So you may want to rewrite them thinking about like were with IR or UR and where with an AIR. This kind of where, all three of those are the same, or this kind of where. So you do see there are patterns for air. We typically spell it with AIR or an A with an E at the end. For the R, it's often just the AR with no E at the end, like car, far, start. Yeah, that's another one. So we have, for example, stir, star, and stare. These have fairly consistent spelling options, but knowing what vowel sound you're going for, being able to look it up, how it's spelled, and then feeling the difference between that position, the R that lifts, and the air that glides back. Okay, so that's kind of just a brief overview of some information I wanted to share. I see we have many questions and requests coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and turn to those now. If you're watching this as a replay, you can leave your questions in a comment and I will answer them for you either in a subsequent video or by sending you a link to information where I have answered your question in another video. So thank you so much. It's nice to see all of you here today. Let's see. Our first question is pronunciation of water. This is a frequently asked question because it's a challenging word for a lot of people. Think of that T sound as though it were a D, and the ah is an open ah. So you're going to think about that ah, otter, water. So the T is a flap because it's between two vowels and it doesn't start a stressed syllable. If you have trouble making that flap T, think about a word like bitter or header. And your D is going to make the exact same sound in the middle of words. It's also a flap. So if I can say header, water, that may help me be able to make that flap T the same way in both words. Great question. Thank you. Okay, we have a question about the word acknowledge, whether the K is pronounced like a G. So in acknowledge, the K is pronounced more as a stopped sound. So I don't say acknowledge, I don't release the air, but I also don't say G. I don't say acknowledge. You could hear if I voiced it, acknowledge, it would sound a little different than acknowledge. So what we want is a stress on the na syllable, and then this to have a really reduced vowel. It might even be like an it, or an Then with my stopped K, acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge. I think I kind of use an there. It's basically a reduced vowel because the na syllable is stressed. And so you want to lift your tongue up for that K, but don't let any air out. So don't think of it as a G because that'll give you acknowledge with too much G sound, too much voice. Acknowledge. Thank you. Great question. I do think I may have covered your word recently, but maybe I didn't get into that much detail for you on that K sound. After class, I'm going to go through and timestamp what we talked about today and give you links to additional videos related to those words or to sounds or patterns I'm talking about, so you can check those out. Come back and watch the replay later. Okay, we have a question about the words perspective and comfortable. Are they pronounced with an R that changed its position? Perspective, comfortable. So I'm not sure. Basically, we don't change position to do the R sound. We always have to have the same position. So if I'm saying perspective, I still need that tight R. Comfortable. That one changes a little bit because sometimes we say comforta with an and sometimes we say it more like comfortable. I do have a video talking about comfortable, so you may notice that it sounds different there. It's because I'm doing more of a tra instead of a tura, gliding in and out of the R. I'll put the link for the related videos there for you later on in the timestamps in the comments for this video. Okay, we have a question about roll, rule, and roll. So roll, like a part, my part that I play, and roll, like the food or the action to roll something, are the same. They both have the O diphthong and a dark L, roll. Because I'm moving from that rounded O, you'll hear that I have a little bit of a gliding W in there. You won't see it in the IPA, but you might find it easy to think about the word row and then the sound ul, roll. Don't exaggerate the W too much, but you're naturally going to have that glide coming in when you move from the O to the little schwa we have before a dark L. And then your other word was rule. So same idea there, except we have a tense oo sound. And then same kind of glide will sneak in before my schwa, and my L. So you'll just see r, u, and ul in the IPA, but what you'll hear is more like rule, rule, rule. I do have a video for rule and ruler. Also, I believe I have one for roll, in other words, with ol. So again, after class, I'll put the timestamp in talking about this and give you some links to go into more details on your words. Great request. Thank you. Okay. So we have a question about the word world. And even though the viewer watched the video on my video on world, still has trouble pronouncing it smoothly. I don't really have any tips for you besides what's in the video, except that you really just want to figure out where it's breaking down. So is it the R sound? Is it the L sound? Working on each part separately and then slowly building them together. It may just take a while because R and L are difficult in that context. So for those of you who haven't seen the world video, what I talk about is thinking about building from and then adding your W, were, and then adding your dark L, whirl, and world. So take any of those steps, any of those parts that are giving you trouble, and just focus in on those. So if it's the just work on her, sure, getting a solid on your R. If it's the old, work on words like old and cold, getting your dark L. If it's the R to L, which is probably for most people, also work on words like girl and squirrel and really drag out moving from part to part so that you can get your R and your L in sequence. There's no other fix besides being able to address those issues of the R and the L. So just be patient with yourself and identify what's going wrong if you can, because until you can figure out where you're struggling and focus in on correcting that part, it's going to be hard to correct the overall word of world because it's just a tough word to be able to say. Sorry, you're still struggling with that. Hi, welcome everybody. Okay, lots of questions to catch up on. We have a question about a request for frivolity and frantically. So frivolity has second syllable stress. That VOL is just like in volume, where we have an ah vowel, va. So thinking about it like vol. This is an unstressed first syllable, so you're going to have a light, short is sound. Vol, frivolity. Frivolity is actually how most Americans will say it. For some reason, it's coming out with more of a T for me, but frivolity. For second syllable stress words, start on that stress syllable and practice it that way, and then tack back on your unstressed light first syllable. So you're going to try volity, frivolity. And then your other word, frantically. So I just said it the way a lot of Americans say it, which is I left the T out and said it more like frantically. You can say frantically. Just put your T back in there, frantically. That's perfectly correct. But you'll just notice a lot of times with NT in the middle in words like frantic and frantically, then Americans will leave that T out. So listen around you, decide which one you like better. Both are correct. Actually, without the T is kind of quote unquote incorrect, but it's so common that that's basically the standard for Americans in terms of the word like frantically. This letter A is the black cat vowel, so you can maybe pair it with another word like act if you're having trouble with the vowel there. Act, frantically, had, frantically. And then frantically, watch out, you don't want frantically. We'd reduce that to just tickly, not an extra syllable there. So that's true for a lot of words like basically. We don't say basically, we say basically, 3 syllables. Okay, yeah, good words. Thank you for that request. Okay, question about contractions for read 'em, get 'em. So we don't really write this contraction. It's an unofficial one. So unlike, I'd or I've or I'm, those are technically their own words and commonly used. But we do frequently reduce them. We leave the th off, and it sounds more like read 'em, read 'em. And this here is a reduced vowel. So the question was, do we use the vowel like we have in them, read 'em, read 'em? That doesn't sound quite right? It sounds a little too overpronounced. So that vowel also gets reduced to more of an read 'em, or even to a schwa, read 'em, read 'em. So if you think of it almost as read 'em, like you're going almost right from the D to the M with no vowel at all. Just a light little unstressed reduced vowel in between there. Read 'em, and your other word was, get 'em. So for get 'em, same thing. You can think of it as almost just being an M. This is a flap, so it's kind of like get 'em, get 'em, get 'em, get 'em while they're hot. Get 'em while they're good. Okay, so yes, reducing a vowel, not using a clear vowel in your word. Great question. Thank you. Okay, we have a question about, is the L a dark L when the cluster is at the beginning of a word? No, typically a cluster like black or blue, it's going to be like a light L. So what you're going to want is just the same L you would use in lack, and then you just add your B, black. If I used a dark L, it would sound kind of more like black, which is an error that we have for some speakers have a challenge putting blends together with L, like the word blend, because in your language, maybe you don't have that blend, and so it's unnatural to put those right together. And then you end up with an extra sound in there like blend, and you don't want that. You want to just go as quickly as possible, right from your B sound to your L sound. Yes, okay. Or same for like class. You don't want class, but class. So same, you can kind of start on las, then just add your K. Las, class. Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. Okay, we have one of our channel members. Welcome, nice to see you. The question is about, are you asking about the syllables in patent? Or are you asking about the words patent and syllable? Maybe you can clarify that for me. I'll start with the word patent. So patent, we do the same thing here that we do on the word important, where it's kind of a weird thing that American native speakers do. It is correct and okay to say patent. So you can say first syllable stress with a true T, patent. And then this E becomes again a schwa or an I. It's a reduced sound. So it would sound like patent. Almost no vowel there at all. We also often patent. Actually, we don't really stop that T typically. Patent. I think we are more likely to put that T on because otherwise it's really hard to tell what this word is. In important, we do use a stop T for that final T. So it might be true that we do that with patent as well. Like if I said patent law, yeah, I would probably. I'm in patent law. I would do more of just a, so I can either do patent law with a true T here, a stopped T here, or a true T here. There's a lot of different options. Or I might not use that true T there, and I might use a stop T, and then it would sound like pat. So patent, with or without this final T, with or without this T, patent. patent. Then it would be a syllabic N by itself. So this is kind of a confusing explanation. I'm sorry, but it's because we do all these weird things. So patent, both T's. Patent, both T's are stopped. Or patent with the end T stopped or not stopped. Yeah. Probably partly depends on context. Also, if you're trying to be clear, even a native speaker is going to say patent with kind of clear T's if it's uncertain, if their listener is going to be uncertain about what the word is. But if it's a word I use regularly, patent, I'm probably going to use those stop T's. Okay, so definitely 2 syllables. Let me know if you were also requesting the word syllable. Actually, let's just cover it in case you were. So syllable, 3 syllables. First syllable stress, the I vowel, bull. Okay, so same thing. I can see the relationship here. We also have a syllabic L here, kind of like we have the syllabic N in patent. In syllable, there's basically no vowel between that B and that L. But this is a case where we do have the dark L. So in blend, light L, no vowel between B and L. In bull of syllable, it is more like the word bull with a little bit of a schwa vowel there. Really reduced, but in syllable or doable, other words that trouble that ends with the bull sound, that's our dark L with that little schwa in there. I do have a video about dark L, and also I think my video about the word important might help you with the word patent because it's got the same pattern at the end. So thank you for being a channel member, and it's nice to see you here today. Okay, we have a question about pronouncing amateur and mature. So amateur. In American English, we say amateur and mature in a very similar way. In just a moment, I have to get my other pen. In British English, they don't use the ch sound. They say more like amateur and mature. Whereas we say, for amateur, we say amateur with a ch, and for mature we say ma with a schwa, mature. So mature. 2 ways, same sound, chur. We just have that sound and the ch sound. So amateur, first syllable stress, and mature, second syllable stress. Yeah, those are, I hadn't thought about the relationship between those words, so thanks for asking about that. That's interesting to look at. Okay, question is how to say a bottle of water. So just like we were saying, we talked about water at the beginning of class. For bottle, it is just like what we were just talking about with syllable, with that dark L. So for bottle, think of it, first of all, the O, you want to think about that as being an ah sound. The T's are going to be like a D, bottle. And then we just have our dark L, bottle. So work on the O, dull, bottle. Work on whatever part of it's toughest for you. It might be the vowel. It might be that flap plus T. I do have a video about words like little, Seattle, and bottle that might help you because it's the same pattern with that TTLE ending on all of those. And then also just for your word of, make sure you're using a schwa and a V sound. So of, not oaf or off. The spelling of is very misleading. The sounds are really a schwa and a V, or in this case, it's probably a very short, unstressed schwa. Bottle of water, bottle of. Bottle of is actually a little easier to do than bottle because you can kind of think about it as bottle of. You can think of the L going on the of, bottle of water. Yeah, Okay, that's a good request. That's something I'm sure many people have to ask for, and it's frustrating if people can't understand you when you're asking for a bottle of water. Okay. So we have a question about precise and precisely. Precise and precisely. Second syllable stress on both of these words. And so your CIS syllable sounds like size. It sounds like the word ice. So if you can say ice, that might help you. Ice, size, precise. The PRE sounds like because it's a vowel schwa, unstressed. So in the dictionary, you're going to see it like this: precise for just precise, and then precisely for precisely. So we have the diphthong I there. We have the S sounds for both the C and S here. Precise. I think to write the I diphthong, it's kind of helpful to have it like that because we say the I when we have a silent letter E. So precise and precisely. Good words. Thank you for your request. Okay, question about OLL diphthong. So are you wondering about words like pole and toll, or pole? So what we're looking at there, these are the same, is that owl. So the O is a diphthong, right? We're going to want to hold it longer, go from that tense O to a more relaxed So you're closing and going relaxed as you go. Usually for most people, the best way to get that O correct is first just try a word like no and hold it longer. No. And then if you have to do an L, you could try just saying po and then pole. And because you're going from that rounded again to the unrounded schwa before your dark L, you're going to have a little bit of a W sound, gliding sound in there. Pole. Yeah, I think I have some videos about these words as well. So I will direct you to those after class and give you some extra help. And we can also talk about any of your topics in our members class on Sunday as well. Feel free to leave me additional comments and we'll cover those in the channel members class. Okay, we also have a question about the word promoted. Is the ED pronounced T? So in promoted, it's not, because promote ends with the T sound. So that would sound like promoted if I had it. It would just sound like promote if the ED was a T. So I say ED as a T in words like talked, walked, stopped. When my word ends with a P, K, F, S, SH, CH, watched, washed, etc., then my ED says T. If my word ends with a T or a D, like wanted, needed, then my ED sounds like id. So promoted, you're going to have kind of this T becoming a flap, promoted. You can check out my videos about past tense that show you those rules so that you can look at any word. You can also, if you learn to read the dictionary, you can find the symbols and see what the ED is going to say. If it's going to be a D sound, a T sound, or an id sound like in promoted. Okay. Question about counting and breaking down a word into syllables. Is it important to learn that? And is there an easy way to teach it? So the reason I break down words into syllables when I'm talking about pronunciation is it tends to help people with getting the sounds correct, but it's not necessary. And in fact, sometimes people get a little concerned about where syllables break, and it doesn't really make a difference in pronunciation because typically for most words, we're flowing from syllable to syllable, and So you don't want to have a break when you're speaking between syllables and words. They're actually kind of a linguistic concept in that it's sort of how words can connect. So I'd say no, it's not very important to learn to break down syllables. If it helps you to hear and produce the sounds of a word, there are online dictionaries that show you where the syllables break. I do that in my word of the day videos, but I will be breaking words in different places depending on pronunciation, not always necessarily following the rules of exactly where somebody who promotes the breaking of syllables says that. So in general, it is helpful to be able to count syllables because you want to be able to hear the rhythm of the word. So that part, yes, you do want to be able to focus on that. All that is sort of how it's a syllable basically is either a vowel, like we have one syllable words, right? Like, or like the word that's a word, it's one syllable. It's a vowel and a consonant. So I'm giving you single syllable words like that would be like ma or pa. It can be consonant, vowel, consonant, like pop. So the syllable has to at least have a vowel, and then it may also have some consonant sounds. The reason we want to note syllables is that, for example, in a word like interest, it looks like it should be interest, but it's actually interest. It's actually two syllables. We don't say this E sound in interest, even though in something like internet, that's three syllables. We do say this sound. So that being able to hear interest, two syllables, internet, na, three syllables. That is something to work on a little bit in listening. You can just start that by kind of listening and imitating, seeing if you can do the rhythm. So we teach children this when we're teaching them about spelling in schools in the US. They would be listening for syllable or banana, internet. Can they hear how that word, what the rhythm of the word is? So if you can't hear it yet, it might be that it'd be helpful to listen to some longer words. Find a word list of 2-syllable words, 3-syllable words, and start listening for the rhythm. I do have some lessons on speechmodification.com about syllables that you might find helpful because they're more focused on pronunciation and rhythm, the parts that I think that you need to know, and not so much about how to count them or how to break up words. So if you're on speechmodification.com, what you want to do is go to on our homepage. You can go to the free practice area. You click on online practice free trial, and just here in the search box, type in syllable. And again, after class, I'll put in the comments and description for this video some links about this and about syllables. I do have some videos here on YouTube as well. And you can look at lessons about syllable stress, about errors from having extra syllables, about what a syllable is, intonation in words, how to read the dictionary for syllables. So I think you might find these lessons useful in learning that skill. Thank you. That was a good question. And I hope that I helped you understand what you should try to know and what doesn't matter to know about syllables. Okay, I'm going to have to wrap up here shortly. I will take a couple more quick questions. Thank you so much for all of the wonderful questions. And I apologize in advance if I don't get to your question today. I do suggest coming back again next week, or you can leave your question in a comment for me on any of my videos. Those of you who are channel members know that you can ask your questions at any time, and I cover all of the answers in our Sunday class. So even if you can't attend live, you can ask your questions and then watch the replay from that Sunday class, so you don't have to wait for answers to your questions. To join as a channel member, you click the join button and you can see the options. It's a great way to support the channel and get some extra perks. So thank you to those of you who have already done that. Last couple questions. Oh my goodness, so many questions, and I'm not going to be able to get to all of them today. I'm very sorry. Sydney, for bad and bed, I have a video for that. So I'll send you a link so you can check out that video for the A and the S sounds, and particularly the bad and bed words. And then let's just take one more we have a question about common and commonly. So both common and commonly have first syllable stress. The letter O says the ah sound, so ka. And then we have this O says a schwa, commonly. So common or commonly. And I guess I have time for one or two more. And then we have a question for sixth. Yeah, that's a tough one. So I do have a video for sixth as well, and I will direct you to that, put it in the comments after class. I think what helps with sixth is first practicing just six, because six by itself is already hard. So it has, the X says X in this word. So it's a K and a S sound. So trying just first saying sick, and then six, and then finally sixth. That is very, very tough to do the Ks all together. So be patient. Know that if you're saying the sixth time, sixth time, yeah, you pretty much have to do all of the sounds, or it's not going to sound like sixth. With fifth, you can kind of get away with just saying fifth, but with sixth, you kind of have to do all three of them. So maybe also trying just building it from the back, like and then. So what your tongue does there is it goes from behind the teeth for the S to sneaking between the teeth for the TH. You don't have to go super far out. Sixth. You can cheat a little bit and kind of have a little bit closer to against the teeth T sound. You don't want sixth with a strong T, but you don't need a long f either. Sixth. So just try to practice going and then sounds really weird doing those just sounds by themselves, but it will probably actually help you because as soon as you start the word from the beginning, sixth, however you used to struggle with it, it's probably going to come out that way. If you build it from the back, focusing in on the sounds, you may have more success with sequencing those, even though that's pretty challenging. Good word. Thank you. Okay. My apologies if I didn't get to your word today. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. Great questions, great comments. It made for a great class. We'll be back again next Friday at the same time, as well as on Sunday with our members only class. And of course, every day with our word of the day classes. Thanks so much for being a part of the channel. I really appreciate your support and your subscriptions, and especially those of you who have joined as channel members. I'm Christine Dunbar from speechmodification.com. Remember, if you want to sound like a native speaker, you can do it. speechmodification.com. Bye, everybody. Hope to see you again soon.